everybody, and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle, and this is my latest episode of New Music Friday. It is June 24th, 2022, and there's quite a lot of news to cover today, so I'm really excited to talk about it. If you guys are interested, please subscribe. This is the show where I do the top 5 Prog headlines for the week and introduce you guys to some great new Prog singles. I'm hoping it's a good place as kind of a one-stop shop for all things new Prog. And I'd just be thrilled if more people would join and get on board. So thank you guys out there who are supportive of the channel and who give great comments. I'm really appreciative. And without further ado, let's get into the news items today. So now, item number 1, I had to mention, of course, the big buzz, the biggest news on the Prog internet streets right now is the new release of Porcupine Tree's album Closure / Continuation. This, of course, is a legendary group that's been on hiatus for quite some time. You know, their last album, The Incident, came out like over 10 years ago. So this is quite a return for the band. I've heard the album. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's just really kind of dials back into that feel of Porcupine Tree where they left off with The Incident, and just has kind of a great balance of sounds and styles, and has kind of that heavy nature, but also great solid songwriting that Steven Wilson is known for. So I strongly recommend it. I'm going to be doing a review of it certainly coming up this next week. I'm really excited to talk more in depth about it. So this album, of course, features Steven Wilson on vocals, guitars, and mixing, Richard Barbary on keyboards, synthesizers, and sound processing, and Gavin Harrison on drums and percussion. Kind of a trio are the ones mainly involved in the record here. They're also going on tour later this fall, and it's a big event, a lot of things going on with the band, and it's a really exciting time to be a fan of theirs. Of course, the album is available to order pretty much anywhere you get your music, so check that one out. Definitely a strong recommendation. Also released today, just kind of as a brief mention, Coheed and Cambria's new album, Vaxis 2, A Window of the Waking Mind. Really excited to check that one out. They have a lot of great progressive releases and kind of follow storylines and have these kind of big epic concept albums. And then on the even more proggier kind of eclectic end, Bubblemath came out with their new album Surf Ascension today. Very eclectic and kind of, has a lot of different styles and sounds, and goes into kind of a jazzy direction, and then kind of morphs and switches with lots of time signature changes, but with kind of a backdrop of these kind of poppy melodies. It's really interesting stuff that is really kind of challenging and takes you some really good concentration to get into and pick up. So I definitely recommend that for some of the more proggier fans in the group here. So that one is also a new release today. Item number 2, after all those new releases, we've got a new single from the Mars Volta and a tour announcement, and I believe they're planning a new album as well. So it's just a lot of things going on in the Mars Volta camp. This was kind of came out of the blue a little bit, at least from my perspective. I wasn't expecting the Mars Volta to come out with new music. They've been kind of doing a bit of a reissue kind of campaign with their prior albums. They've been putting them on vinyl and, having these big box sets and different configurations of their releases. A lot of people have been excited about that, but it's cool to see the band finally getting back to doing new music. The new song called Blacklight Shine is a really cool little track. There's actually kind of an expansive film about it that I'm going to put link in the description. It's like 11 or so minutes long. The song itself is more like a 4-minute song, featuring a lot of these kind of Caribbean rhythms and really cool, sophisticated songcraft from the group. It's a little bit more poppier and kind of like, almost feels like it can be danced to. It's kind of this cool beat to it, but it's really kind of fun. And I think it really showcases something really cool about the band and kind of leans in a direction of where they might be going next. Of course, Mars Volta are kind of a duo between Omar Rodriguez Lopez and Cedric Bixler Zavala. And so the short film kind of features that song and then goes on to this kind of bomba dance kind of routine with a lot of rhythms, a lot of drums, and kind of some visuals of some dancers that are following the movements of the drummer. Really cool kind of a style that I think is popular in like Puerto Rico and maybe other parts of Latin America, and it's cool that they bring that into their music, and I think that's really cool. So really interesting stuff from the band. In fact, on June 19th, there was a mysterious cube that appeared in Grand Park in LA, and it was kind of an audio-visual art installation that the band did, and in concert with this single, kind of really signified the return of the band. Inside that cube, visitors were taken on a full immersive journey to outer space, and where Blacklight Shine was first heard by the public. And so it was kind of an interesting experience to get inside the cube, intended to provoke self-reflection, guiding fans on a journey through endless galaxies and back down to Earth. So it has kind of a wild name, Latome Hydroxytelesterion or something like that. But it's just kind of a fun experience. They're trying to really bring a unique experience to this, as they always tend to do. They're very creative and do things a lot differently. And they kind of announced a little bit of a tour going on sale. Tickets on sale today, actually, through the end of September and into October through North America. And, there may be more tour dates announced, more information about a new album may be announced soon, but there's definitely activity in the Mars Volta camp, and it's exciting for fans of the group and for fans of just weird creative people who do these kind of unique rollouts for their new singles and albums. So I definitely wanted to mention that. Next, item number 3, I wanted to mention the new Devin Townsend album was announced, Lightwork. I believe he's been kind of teasing this one for a bit, that he's been working on this new album, but this was kind of the official announcement from Devin Townsend and Inside Out Music. It's going to be released on October 28th, 2022. And the front cover artwork was designed by longtime friend and designer Travis Smith. And then it's also going to be accompanied by a companion record called Nightwork, available as part of the limited edition version of the release. So there'll definitely be probably lots of formats and varieties of ways to pre-order the album once that becomes available in the coming months. So and there's also a lot of announcements of different dates for the upcoming Lightwork tour in Europe throughout March and April of next year. So that should be a really cool tour. I know Devin Townsend is known to do kind of these big productions and is an incredible musician live. So this should prove to be a really interesting work. He's a very super creative individual and always comes out with something interesting. His previous record, Empath, was a really interesting one that I actually enjoyed. I'm usually not a huge Devin Townsend fan just because he tends to lean on the heavier, more aggressive style of metal, kind of the more extreme metal kind of stuff, which isn't really my preferred cup of tea. I don't really like the aggressive kind of growling vocals and blast beats and that kind of thing. But I found a lot of creativity and interest in Empath. I think it really spans the gamut of a lot of different styles and feels and really brought him to another level. And I'm hoping this kind of continues on that trajectory, and it might be one I'm interested in checking out. So I thought that was worth mentioning here at item number 3. Moving on to item number 4, we've got news from Queensryche. They released their first song and video in Extremis off their forthcoming album, Digital Noise Alliance. So this is their 16th studio album set for release on October 7th. This new song is a really cool kind of progressive metal, pretty straightforward rock kind of song, but it's really strong, great lyrics, and really sounds great. So definitely check out the single there. The video is linked in the description below. And Queensryche is just kind of a legendary progressive metal band that were one of the big bands that were kind of promoting this style back when it was in its early stages. So it's always interesting to see where they're heading as a group. Sometimes I think they lean more on the heavy metal end than the progressive end, but it's really cool that they're continuing forward as a band even this far into their career. They began back in 1982, but now we're seeing them several years later, like 40 years later, still going and still making great music. So and right after the release of the album, it looks like they're going to be opening for Judas Priest on a big tour coming out, kind of their 50 years of heavy metal, 50 heavy metal years, rather, from Judas Priest, coming October, November. So there's dates already out for that, and that should be a really fun, heavy time for people to really experience some cool classic metal music. So definitely album to check out when it comes around. And then at number 5, I wanted to mention Leprous have announced a North American tour with Apocalyptica and Wheel. Kind of a cool bill there. 2 very cool bands that they're touring with. They're touring across North America with those groups in September and October. It looks like they're also doing some upcoming dates in Europe as well, so it looks like they're doing a lot of touring. Their last album, Aphelion, was one of my favorites last year, so I just wanted to mention that quickly, that they're going to be touring. I believe they toured North America already, so this is kind of a second leg of that tour, but of course with other groups in the mix and in the lineup, so should be a cool little tour to enjoy there. And kind of bonus item number 6 that I wanted to mention is Pendragon announced that they're releasing an acoustic vinyl version of their previous album, Love Over Fear. Love Over Fear was my favorite album of I believe it came out in 2020. It was my favorite album of that year. I thought it was brilliant. Pendragon are incredible, kind of neo-prog group, but I thought the new album was just, it felt more uplifting and had a great positive vibe, which I felt I really needed in the year 2020. When their previous albums, they were kind of leaning more on a darker, heavier type sound. So it was kind of a refreshing switch up for the group, and just such incredible, beautiful melodies. And the album cover is beautiful, and it just was one of my favorite records. So hearing that they're coming out with an acoustic version of it is really exciting on vinyl, and it looks really awesome. It's kind of in a special packaging, kind of a purple colored version of the cover with some like really cool colored vinyl as well. So definitely something worth checking out. It sounds like the band are kind of considering other vinyl releases as well, for the near future, perhaps. They mentioned the rest of Pendragon has been out of stock for 10 years, so they're kind of remastering that music from there and putting together a package that might be out in about 6 months' time, they say. Vinyl is kind of tricky because there's a long lead time. It takes 6 to 7 months for manufacturing. Costs have gone up because of, inflation and just demand, and people are just getting more and more into vinyl, so the costs are rising up. But they're coming out with some cool stuff, and as a fan, I'm really excited for it. So I wanted to mention it as a quick hit item here towards the end of the discussion. And I want to point your way towards the top singles as well, which also I kind of have a bonus single in the mix. I wanted to run through the singles really quick. I have the Mars Volta and their new single, Blacklight Shine, as I already have talked about. It's really cool, kind of a short film, 11 minutes. The song itself is more like 4 minutes at the beginning, but then they go into this kind of extended dance sequence kind of piece, which is kind of really cool to watch, and definitely recommended. Then we've got Ryo Okamoto came out with the new single, The Watchmaker, Time on His Side. His new album, The Myth of the Mostrophus, comes out July 29th, so this is kind of the first full-length track from it, to really get a feel for the music. It's really kind of classic progressive rock, just along the lines of what you'd expect from Ryo with his Spock's Beard background. Written, or at least co-written by Michael Whiteman of I Am the Manic Whale, which is another band I really love, and so it has his sound on it. He sings on it as well, so it just definitely has that I Am the Manic Whale type feel, but some great keyboard wizardry from Ryo Okamoto, some great guitar playing from Lyle Workman, and the thundering bass of Dave Maros and drumming of Jonathan Mover makes this a really cool track that I recommend checking out if you like the Spock's Beard side of the spectrum of prog. Lonely Robot released their first single from upcoming album, A Model Life. The single's called Recalibrating, so that's in the singles list. Really cool John Mitchell song. It just really is in his style and sounds really great. The new album sounds like it's going to be a really cool thing, coming out on June 24th, or coming out August 26th. Today's June 24th. Today's when you can pre-order the new album. So really a cool track, Recalibrating. Definitely check that one out. There's also a new King's X track, Let It Rain, coming from their upcoming 13th studio album, 3 Sides of One, which is being released September 2nd. So that's another big news item. King's X is releasing an album on Inside Out Records, and it should be really a cool listen. It's a cool song, kind of a rockin', kind of cool song. They're not really totally progressive rock in my mind. They're more kind of just interesting rock music, but I think it works really well, and I really enjoy the new song, so it really is promising. Also on the list of singles, I have the new Queensryche, as I mentioned, in Extremis, and then Evership and their new song Coronation from their upcoming Uncrowned King Act 2, which more of an obscure kind of indie sort of prog album, but their Act 1 was really well regarded, and I really appreciated it, and I'm excited to hear what Act 2 has to offer. So that's my prog singles for the week. Please check that out. Go into the description, look it up, listen to some great new prog music. That's what it's all about here. For the channel itself, this has been a fun week. We did our latest classic albums episode, me and Jana, where we covered AC/DC, Back in Black. Not my typical music that I tend to talk about, much more straightforward rock and roll, but it was a really fun time, and we're really trying to delve into all the classics, and I think that was an important classic to talk about. So really, go check that one out. That was a lot of fun to do. Like I mentioned, the new Porcupine Tree album review will be coming out this upcoming week, where I'll delve deeper into that album, which I think, once again, is really fantastic, and I highly recommend. I think it's just as good as their previous, 3 or 4 records that they released before this one, so I'm really excited about it. And just a lot of fun things. I'm thinking of doing a Porcupine Tree album ranking in the future. I'm going to do a kind of possibly a collaborative couple of shows with some of my fellow YouTubers and friends. So that should be fun. Something to look forward to, possibly coming later in July. So a lot of fun things kind of in the works. And hopefully there's a lot of good content for you guys and that you're still enjoying the channel. So thank you guys once again for all your support. I hope you've enjoyed these news items, and I'll hopefully catch you guys in a future video. So thank you so much for joining me, and go out and enjoy the music. Bye, everybody.